Alright guys, so I showed you this target system here in a recent video. Kind of did a first look for you. This is the AT Gong setup from Action Target. And I want to show you, or is it PT Gong, whatever they call it. In any case, I want to show you some of the wear that's on it after, I don't know, several hundred rounds on the gong and at the gong and in the general direction of the gong. 223, 308, a little bit 9 here and there just for fun, probably 1 or 2 9 hits, but lots of 308, lots of 223 on this thing today. Probably a couple of hundred rounds at it and maybe 150 rounds on it, something like that. Some of the wear we're seeing, stuff that jumps out at me first, one of the bolts here busted up, so we got a hit probably directly on it or very near it and busted the head to it. So I'll be looking for a new head or a new bolt for that at some point. Not a big deal, those are not expensive. The plate itself, let's see, maybe the 308. I think some of these divots are 308. I can just barely feel a little divot in some of that, but it looks pretty good. Looks very good. So the gong itself is holding up really well, and that's going to hold up long term, I believe. I think that this right here is actually gone straight through this rubber. This is the last stand material. So I think that little pinhole is one little hit going straight through it. So that's how that seals up and how that closes and how that's going to be, you know, kind of self-healing and holding up for years and years. Ideally, being shot. But spalling is really where it seems to be getting chewed up. You can see some flecks of copper right there in that spalling. I don't know if I can pull that piece out, but you can see little bits of it in there throughout. I can probably get that guy out. Yeah, just barely got it out. Little fleck of copper there. And this is the stuff that's really small, really sharp, that kind of flies everywhere and does chew it up a little bit. So you can see that this has gotten chewed up a little bit from spalling like that here and there, and on the sides, right there as well. So that's going to be a little bit of an issue perhaps. We'll see how it does over time. Again, we put maybe 150 rounds on the target today. I think it'll take a lot more rounds before it's, you know, time to replace any of these pieces. Looking at some of the hinges here, we'll get to a couple other things here in a second, but looking at the hinge, same deal there. A lot of spall coming up. So this would be the face side. So this would have been probably right here on this end of it, and catching spall from this side of the target here. So that's catching a lot of spall, as you can see there. Some nice sharp edges, and I can kind of push on that piece right there. That'll come out eventually. You're going to want to wear gloves as you're carrying this and moving this around, because all that copper getting stuck in there is going to be kind of sharp and you could get cut. Back side of it, pristine, obviously, because it's not getting anything. And the rear side, very little wear, just a tiny bit there. Most of it came from the front right here. Seeing a little bit of that here on the rebar as well. And the opposite side looks about like this. Little flecks of copper stuck inside of the rubber, inside of that material. Just be careful with it. I expect that this is actually going to hold up a while though. And you can see that I can still fold it up just like that for transport. Nice and flat. I'll be able to throw that in the trunk of my car. You can throw that in your truck or whatever. 4 foot long rebar, not a big deal to carry around. The last thing I want to show you is this piece right here, which caused us some trouble pulling this out. You can see that we nailed that rebar right there. Because of that, it got a little bit of a bend to it, and that made it a little bit harder to pull out of the hinge on the opposite side. But the last thing that made it really difficult to pull out of this side right here, and I'll show you that now, is on this hinge. Let's see if you can get through there. If you can see it, we've actually got a bullet that nailed it right into that hinge and is poking through into where that rebar was. So that made it a little difficult to pull the rebar back out this way from there. And as you look at it in this direction, I think you can see it. There's the bullet that's lodged in the hinge. So it's pretty crazy. I think I can get that back out of there. I'll figure out a way when I get home, but yeah, that's going to be you know, just kind of one of the wear points. So these pieces are designed to take lots and lots of hits. However, when it comes to spalling, I don't know if they thought about spalling or if people just haven't talked about how it handles spalling. But little bits of lower velocity, but very small and very sharp pieces of spall do get caught and stuck inside these hinges and in the pieces here, the hangers. So you're going to want to look out for that as you're using this gong. Having said all of that, this gong right here at, I believe it's a 3/8 inch, an AR 500, I don't think it's 550, could be 550. This gong is going to last a long, long time. I have no doubt about that. We shot it today at 130-ish yards, and I'm looking at it to try to see if it started to bow out in any way, shape, or form. We had a couple of little tiny pock marks in it from some of those 308 rounds that hit it, but aside from that, there's no sign of it beginning to bow in any way. So my opinion is that this gong is going to last a long, long time. So as you have to, go ahead and replace rebar, go ahead and replace hinges if you ever need to as they wear out. I think these are far from worn out. Replace bolts as you need to as they wear out, but that gong is kind of the main piece, and that's going to last a long, long time. So that's a little bit of a report there on this Action Target gong that I recommended to you earlier. I still recommend it. I'm having fun with it, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it in the future. Thanks for watching.